Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Frustrated Hour, where we're going to take a look at um, just about anything and everything. But this time, we are going with um,
There's no
the
sound.
most.
No,
Oh,
there is sound. There's sound. It was just muted when it first came on, so I could give you the countdown.
Oh, okay.
Also, I want to
ah,
say, it says on my end, it says off air.
Um,
it's going to say that with OBS.
well, yeah, it'll say that in the Hangout. Um,
Yeah.
it's running
Oh,
through
okay.
OBS, so we're good.
So,
All right. Cool. Cool.
as y'all can see, we're all professional here. We know exactly what's
Oh yeah.
happening. I of course am the frustrated atheist, and with me I have my two co-hosts, Mrs. Snarky and Godless Iowan,
Hello.
Howdy, y'all.
and we have with us today a guy who's known as the Tales from the Church, or why don't you
You can
go
call.
ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, you can call me Richard. That's okay. That's my real name. I'm Richard. I'm from originally from Dallas, Texas. Um, Basically, my story is really simple. I was born and raised in an ultra conservative Southern Baptist home in the deep South. I spent most of my childhood in and around various churches in the Dallas Fort Worth Metroplex. And I'm 35 years old now. I'll be 36 in like a week and a half. And I just set up a YouTube channel a month ago to tell some of the stories of some of the weirder things that I've encountered when I was a kid, when I was in the church. My family was they were Baptist, but they sort of lean kind of toward Pentecostalism. So I saw a lot of really strange, Holy Spirit type things. You know, the speaking in tongues and being possessed by the Holy Ghost. And I saw a lot of really strange things growing up. I spent about 14 years basically in the church every day, all the time. And I set up my channel as a means to kind of I look at it as kind of a therapy for me. There are all these things that I've always wanted to get out, but I've been afraid to talk about them because I've been afraid of retribution from my family. Not retribution, but I've just been afraid of my family being disappointed, in me. But I guess it was kind of my way of coming out to the world in a sort of in a sense that I'm not a believer and I was never a believer. And I don't want to convince anybody of anything. I just want to show people how damaging the church is to children and how damaging that religious indoctrination is to little kids. That's my nutshell.
Well, well, there we go. And also, we have here a topic that both you and Godless Iowan know quite a bit about, and that would be about these '90s Christian music.
Right.
So y'all want to get in on that?
Yeah. I can, if we're going on the list that I sent you of videos, I can give you kind of a brief synopsis of of how that sort of that era of music came about. And I'm really interested in music. I'm interested in the history of recorded music and genres and subgenres. The how they develop, it really fascinates me. And I believe that from the period from 1985 to 1995 in Christian music is probably the weirdest period of recorded music in the history of the art form. It's very strange music. I don't think there's any other music like it. And I you know it, basically I think the way that I look at it, it started in the 1960s. um During the whole hippie movement, and the late 60s saw the sexual revolution, and that really changed a lot about American culture. It changed the way people looked at a lot of things. It changed the way people look at sexuality. It changed the way people looked at gender. It was a very powerful movement. It was a flawed movement, and there were a lot of problems with it, but it was very powerful, and it shaped what America has become now. Uh, be that good or bad, however you want to look at it. where we are now is very much affected by that period in the 1960s. Just very volatile time. And in 1968, 69, there was it kind of died out, but there were these groups that spawned from it, and they just kind of evolved into these really odd, I don't even know what to call them. One of those was the Jesus Freaks. And the Jesus Freaks was like kind of a subsect of the hippie movement. And it was like the fringe, Christian hippies. And believe it or not, that movement really was instrumental in forming what now is the religious right. It seems kind of strange to look at it like that, but the what we now know is the religious right and the ultra conservatives, and really where the church is, and politically where the religious right is. It was really it was shaped and formed by that, by the Jesus Freaks of the 1960s, the late 60s. But during that time, there was a lot of, like I said, a lot of the attitudes, the cultural attitudes toward sensitive subjects changed, and they changed so dramatically that it just was this force, and it propelled this stuff forward. And it was, the progressive, I don't want to say the left, but just progress in sort of these identity issues. It just was like shot out of a cannon from the late 60s, so the 70s and 80s, and the 80s and 90s, we started seeing more representations of gay people on television. There was more, I think that the ideas about abortion were much more liberal. People were starting to accept these things. And the church in the 1970s, but especially the 1980s, the conservative church was just, they really wanted to latch on to to the traditional, what they considered to be values, the traditional conservative values. The church really needed to, it was like, part of their identity, and they were really terrified that this cultural movement was working so quickly to kind of annihilate a lot of the things that they valued. And they valued things like, they valued the idea of a marriage between a man and a woman. They valued the idea of that abortion is murder, and they valued these very, all the conservative values that are still alive today. And so in a weird sort of way, that hippie movement, in especially the late 60s, it spawned these two things that are in conflict with each other even still today. And okay, so that I think that sets the stage for the this weird mixture of cultural elements that are boiling underneath the surface of the church. And then in the 1970s, there was a dude called Larry Norman. And Larry Norman is considered like the grandfather of Christian music, not Christian music, Christian rock. And prior to that, and he started to become popular in the mid to late 70s. But prior to that, Christian music was very like hymn oriented. It was hymns and gospel music, and very bland, very boring. And the Christian music industry, I think they felt like they needed to keep up with what was going on in pop culture, because they wanted to keep young people in Christianity. They wanted to keep young people in the church. And so the Christian music industry really, they grasped onto these people like Larry Norman, who was trying to make pop, like Christian rock. So Christian music wanted to sort of take these ideas from secular music, secular entertainment, and incorporate them, because they wanted to be cool, and they wanted to be hip, and they wanted to appeal to the mainstream. And it was all of these elements coming together and just, like I said, boiling beneath the surface of the church that created this really odd Christian rock of the late 80s and early 90s. And that's what we're going to look at today. I'm sorry if that explanation was a little long-winded, but that's kind of how I see that particular that part of the history of this kind of music that we're looking at today. Did you guys get that?
Yeah, we got that. I didn't know if I was supposed to jump in there or not.
No, I'll just drone on and keep talking until somebody cuts me off, right?
Well, I see. I grew up in a church that saw most of the music that we're probably going to be talking about today as wicked and satanic. So, I mean, I still listen to it because that was the way that a Pentecostal church kid rebelled, by listening to Christian rock. I mean, so no, I'm just interested in talking about this.
Right. I understand what you're saying, that there were the proponents of like Christian metal and Christian rock, but on the far fringe, like you said, on the Pentecostal fringe, there were people that saw that as evil, even maybe more evil than secular metal, because it was like they were taking this idea about, these ideas about the gospel and Jesus and God, and they were perverting them and turning them into these metal songs, trying to assimilate to the mainstream. That's funny. So you and I are coming at this from very different perspectives in terms of what we saw when we were kids, because when I was a kid, this was the alternative to all the evil stuff, because I grew up in the era with like hair metal. We had, and like I think the satanic metal that was just sort of it was never meant to be taken seriously, like Slayer and these kinds of Ozzy Osbourne and these kinds of like Megadeth and those bands that were, in a way, they were kind of a response to what was going on in the Christian music industry. I think they were, they kind of were a response to that. But at the same time, the difference is that the Christian music was serious. And I think like Slayer and the bands that were kind of pretending to be satanic, they weren't so serious. It was just like, that was what they were about. It was, this is metal and it's about Satan, and they wanted to rebel against the church. But it wasn't nearly as serious as, they weren't as serious as like Carmen. They weren't as serious as the Christian,
Carmen.
the Christian music, dude.
Yeah.
Carmen is the first one we're going to look at today, I believe, right?
Frustrated? Are you there?
Frustrated? Are you there? He's muted.
Oh my God. I remember Carmen. Oh my God.
Well,
he used to come on TBN with his stupid little videos.
Right.
Well, I was going to say, I think, like when you're talking about actual metal bands like Slayer and Ozzy Osbourne and Alice Cooper, there was the satanic panic that was going on, and metal music really just went with it and was like, okay, if they're gonna call us satanic and say that if you play our music backwards you can hear messages from the devil, let's just play this up. And so, and it caught on really well.
Yeah, and then Danzig became popular too.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Danzig.
Oh, Danzig. I love Danzig. Danzig's awesome. Old Danzig, like early Danzig albums, I love those albums. That was like blues rock.
Yeah, I was just playing Mother before I was playing
Yeah.
It's too bad what happened with Danzig. I saw him in Pennsylvania in like, I want to say 2009. And man, that guy has fallen from grace for real.
Yeah, he did not age like wine, did he?
No, he didn't age well at all. Say it though, because you brought up the satanic panic, and I think that's one thing I didn't mention in my synopsis, is that was also something that was going on that affected some of this music we're going to listen to. Especially the first thing we're going to look at is one of the Carmen videos, and definitely Carmen was like, he was the guy that was his brand was like demons and devils, and he was obsessed with Satan. All of his music was about Satan and demons and devils, and at the very end of all his songs, like, Jesus shows up and beats the hell out of all the demons and devils. But you can tell he had a fascination with demons and devils. And if you actually, I'm going to plug my channel. Okay. If you go to my channel, Tales from the Church on YouTube, the last video that I've uploaded last week is about Carmen. It's kind of a brief sort of rundown of his career during the late 80s and early 90s. And you can see some of his music videos, and I kind of give you an idea about the history of this guy. But we should watch that video. Is frustrated here. His microphone is muted, I think.
Yeah, he's muted. I don't know what's going on, or if he was gonna play video through this.
Are you there?
Frustrated.
Maybe he went to sleep.
That would be awkward. We're streaming on his channel and he's asleep.
You gotta I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do now. Okay,
this is chaos. I'm sharing your channel in the chat right now. People should definitely go and subscribe.
Okay, yeah, cool. Thank you. I'm gonna do more of these. I'm gonna do more of these videos about some of these Christian musicians that I grew up with. But I think I chose Carmen as the first one because he just was such an anomaly. He was such a weird guy.
He was.
Weird. He was.
He's still making music. He's still alive.
What?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. In 2014, he got a cancer diagnosis. And he ended up doing chemotherapy, which I mentioned in my video, and I think it's really interesting because a big part of his whole shtick was the laying of hands on the sick and causing them to recover through the power of the Holy Spirit. But when he got cancer, he used chemotherapy and doctors and medicine to get rid of the cancer.
Maybe he's not entirely stupid.
Well, no, but I mean, who knows when you look at somebody like that or like Bob Larson? Are you familiar with Bob Larson?
Yeah.
So when you look at people like that, I think it's hard to tell what part of the stuff that they do is serious and what part of the stuff that they do is just for money or for, I get the feeling he was serious. I get the feeling that he was genuine. But I mean, who knows where the genuineness of it ends and the showmanship begins? I mean, he made millions of dollars, so I really don't. I have no idea.
So, but, since Frustrated isn't with us at this moment, to go with Carmen, there's a personal favorite song that I could just read the lyrics of if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. Which one is it?
It's Satan Bite the Dust.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
That's the one that I was hoping it would be.
These are the Carmen lyrics.
Party's over.
Party's over. Shut it down. I'm hunting for someone, y'all. He's a lion, thieving rattlesnake, and he's broken every law. He's terrorized the lives of men, and he is under arrest because I've been sent with a warrant from the body of Christ. Well, tell me what it says then, Satan. Bite the dust.
That's a beautiful song. There's a. Oh, I'm sorry. Keep going.
Every one of you unclean spirits, I'm running you out of town. Depression, strife, disease, and fear, your posse's going down. Boy, last tenderfoot who talked that big we sent him home. What? Boy, last tenderfoot who talked that big we sent him home in a box. But I know who I am through Jesus Christ, so I talk to you demons like dogs. Satan, you coward, you molester of souls, I command you to appear. You're hiding from the presence of God, but I can feel your fear from here. You rattled my chain, boy, long enough. You got something in your craw. A praying church wants you to know what? Your kingdom's gonna fall. There's gonna be trouble here tonight. Because and this is the chorus, because I represent a whole new breed of Christian today, and I'm authorized and deputized to blow you clean away. I've got a message to deliver from one who's true and just. Will spit in your eye, your father of lies, Satan, bite the dust. Boy, you're gonna take me on, and my unholy herd not only take you on, but take you out by the Spirit and the Word. One by one you'll drop like flies underfoot and in the ground, because greater is he who is in me than the snake that I'm staring down. You demon of alcohol. Jesus, this is a longer song than I remember. Oh, you Satan, or you demon of alcoholism, you'll be the first to go. There's deliverance from you through Jesus Christ, so hit the road. You spirit of infirmity, you ain't welcome here no more. We'll lay hands on the sick and they'll recover, so out the door. You demon of false religion, you've preyed on minds so simple. I bind the spirit of your song, so El Kabong, playing that in your temple. Now, Satan, you're next in line. I'm going to hit you where it hurts, because I'm tired of you and my family, and I'm tired of you and my church. I'm not my own. I'm bought with a price. I'm a Holy Ghost-filled man, and I'm tolling the bell of your eternal destruction cross every land. Because I represent a whole new breed of Christian today, and I'm authorized and deputized to blow you clean away. I've got a weapon with 2 bullets that overcome all sin and crud. One bullet is called the word of my testimony, and the other one's called the blood. Satan, bite the dust.
God.
Bite the dust. Well, how do you feel about that, devil? I'm feeling mighty low. Good.
Good.
Wow.
Hi.
A funny thing about that
Whoa.
that song has a music video that goes along with it. The reason that the lyrics are kind of weird is because it's Western themed. It's like a Western themed music video that goes along with it, and the music is sort of like Western, like Old West, you know.
Yeah.
So Carmen shows up in this bar, and all these demons are hanging out in this bar, and they're drinking and I guess fornicating. I don't know. They're just evil, these evil demons. And Carmen basically comes in and just shoots up a bar.
Yeah.
He kills everyone in this bar.
Oh my God.
Wait, it's Frustrated here.
Frustrated has finally shown up.
Yes, I am here. Sorry about that,
Hey,
guys. I
we
had
gotta-
some stuff to
fancy
do.
meeting you here, Russ. That's
I
kind
know.
of
Thanks
weird.
for
Like,
me on my channel,
I
man.
don't
Yeah.
know why you would be here.
It was a
I
little
don't
bit
know
of
either.
a.
I thought you fell asleep.
No, I had some stuff to do, but we are back. Well, I am back. Y'all have
that
been
your-
here.
Is that your dog? The yip, 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 is that your dog? Whose dog
Yes,
is that?
those that would be my dogs that were just fighting with each other.
I like dogs.
Yes.
I like dogs a lot. That's cool.
Yes,
Okay,
one's
so
a
do you
Boston
want,
Terrier.
can we watch? Oh yeah, those little ones are, man. They're feisty. It's feisty
Yeah.
little things.
Oh yeah, I mean, I can pull up the that
Let's
one
watch.
video.
The first one is A Witch's Invitation. Let's watch that.
Well, those might actually get me copyrighted, but oh well.
Okay, no, it won't, because you know what? I use that video in my I'm not sure about the other videos that I sent you, but I use that video in my video about Carmen, and I got a copyright notice, but I didn't get a copyright strike.
Yeah.
And this is fair use. This is commentary about music. It's totally fair use. I know YouTube doesn't care much about things like that, but it is fair use.
Yeah, you won't get a strike. You'll get a notice, and it'll say that you can't monetize this.
No,
Right.
well,
And the funny thing is that money will go to the artist. So we'll be giving Carmen money by playing this on your channel.
I don't know if I want to play it now.
You're giving money to Jesus.
I don't want to. I don't want
I've
to give
watched
money
every.
to Jesus.
I've watched every one of these videos that he sent me, and they are just the cringiest.
Yeah, they're bad. They're pretty bad. But we
I'm
should do a
going to
Witch's
put it-
Invitation.
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Actually,
And
and
what?
and
Because I don't know how to do that.
you should be able to just share your screen, and I'll
okay.
set you up as presenting again.
All right, that sounds like a plan.
And then as long as you don't have headphones in, we should be able to hear the audio as well.
Okay, I can actually take out the headphones here once I get it all set up.
Oh, look at all that porn.
I know, just all of it.
I need some YouTube help too.
Can y'all hear?
Yes.
Yeah, it's very loud.
Now it's very soft.
Yeah, now I can't hear it. Are you guys familiar with this video? Do you want me to narrate? I can narrate. If we can't get the audio, I can tell you what's going on. Oh, that's loud. I think normally to play a video on a stream, it's better to output the audio to a mixer if you're using a mixer, because then it goes directly into the mix.
Is it too loud?
I can't hear it at all.
Yeah, I can't hear it really either. I think that
it might be better in the future if you download the videos prior and then play them from actually maybe that wouldn't change anything. I think the lag is because we're live streaming, not because of YouTube.
Well, that's the case, and also it's running through my OBS instead of so I would have had to have downloaded it and put it in as a scene. So I didn't realize we were going to play videos. I know he had mentioned something about that, but then we weren't sure we were actually going to do that.
Yeah. Well, basically, like, have you seen this video? Are you familiar with this video?
Yes. I'm very familiar with Witch's Invitation.
So it's basically like Carmen gets this letter from a warlock, a really evil warlock that lives in an old Victorian mansion in the middle of nowhere, and there's this perpetual thunderstorm outside, and it's the letter is inviting Carmen. Oh, I want to go back and say this is supposed to have been based on a true story. This is something that really happened to Carmen's pastor. Okay, so this happened to Carmen's pastor. Carmen's pastor told him about it, and then he wrote a song about it. This is from his album Revival in the Land. I don't remember what year it came out. It's I think early or late 80s. It maybe have been early 90s, but I think it was late 80s. So Carmen gets a letter in the mail, and it's basically inviting him to have a theological discussion with a witch. And so Carmen's like, okay, I'll go and have this discussion. And he goes to the guy's house, the witch's house. And the witch is this kind of caricature of a Wiccan or something. He's dressed all in black, and he's holding a black cat. and he's got this he's got this evil grin on his face, and he invites Carmen in, and he gives him some herbal tea. Oh, also he has Dungeons and Dragons. He has like a Dungeons and Dragons board game on his desk, and he has a Ouija board because evil people in the 80s, they really liked Dungeons and Dragons, and right, that was the church was really against Dungeons and Dragons for some reason. And so Carmen goes in, and he and Isaac, the warlock's name is Isaac. He sits him down, and he shows him this scrapbook. And the scrapbook is all the stuff that Isaac has done, all this evil stuff he's done. He's done all these miracles, and he's cursed people, and he's performed all of these supernatural things in the name of Satan. And he's basically like challenging Carmen. So he says to Carmen, "What can your God do to compete with this?" And then Carmen's like, oh shit, you know, he's like, he has a moment of stupor where he doesn't know how to respond. And then the light comes through the window and he gets filled with God, and he jumps up out of his chair and he throws the scrapbook at the witch, and he just starts screaming at him. And basically what he says to him is, Isaac, actually, you know what? I have the lyrics here. Hold on, let's see. He says, Isaac, I'll not compare God's miracles versus Satan's. The issue's not God's kingdom and Satan's lair. The real comparison is the condition of your soul and the condition of mine. Oh, it won't let me scroll over. I got this open in a word. Anyway, whatever. Okay, so basically he's like, look, the difference between you and me is that your soul is all fucked up and dark and just, you know, decrepit, and my soul is filled with God. And one day you're going to be lying in your bed on your last few minutes, and you're going to be wheezing like a dying animal. And in that moment, which mantra, which cantation are you gonna say to you know, to keep yourself from being dragged away to hell? And then finally these demons are going to come, and it has this, you see this in the video, this Isaac guy is lying in his bed and he's like, he's dying, and these demons come, like these two green demons, they come and they burn a hole in his bed and they just suck him through the hole, and he gets physically dragged to hell. So basically Carmen, in a nutshell, in a summary, is like, he's like, Isaac, I'm better than you. I got God, you got Satan. When I die, I'm going to go to heaven. When you die, you are going to go to hell. The demons are going to come. They're going to drag you away. And then and then like Isaac is, for whatever reason, he's defeated by this argument. Like this argument is something he just, I guess he never thought about it before. So he slumps into his chair and he's very sad. And then Carmen just leaves. He says, thanks for your witch's invitation. And he slams the door, and then Isaac's pentagram falls off of the wall. And so Carmen is victorious. He was victorious. He won the theological debate.
Yeah, I gotta say though, one of the ones that you sent me that was the cringiest though, probably would have to be the abstinence song.
Oh yeah.
The DC Talk song.
Oh
yes, I don't want it. That was like cringy beyond cringy.
Oh, DC Talk is just like king cringe.
Well, you know, DC Talk, their album Jesus Freak is considered to be the greatest Christian album like in the history of Christian music by many people.
That came out too. I'm so old.
Yeah, me too. I saw them live actually when I was like 12.
Oh, you poor
so thing. Can I read the lyrics to I Don't Want It to let them know?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go ahead and read just through the first chorus. But it's SEX is test when I'm pressed. So back up off with less of that zest. Impress this brother with a life of virtue. The innocence that's spent is gonna hurt you. Safe is the way they say to play. Then again, safe ain't safe at all today. So just wait for the mate that's straight from God. Don't have SEX till you tie the knot. I don't want it, I don't want it, want it. I don't want it, want your SEX for now. I don't want it, I don't want it, want it. I don't want it till we take the vows. Which, I don't want it, I don't want it means you want it. Because you didn't include the I don't at the last little section there.
There's like some Freudian stuff going on there. But the cringiest part about the video that I sent, it's a cover of that song, because that song was from their album Free at Last, which came out I think in 1992. But the cover was more recent, and it was performed by like the youth pastors at a church. And there's something really creepy, like super creepy, about a bunch of dudes dancing around on stage and rapping about not wanting sex. Like, so odd to me. And then, but the song is really menacing if you think about it, because these these pastors or whatever, youth pastors, are up on the stage, and they're basically commanding all the kids like don't have sex, and it's over and over again. I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't want it. Sex is bad. Sex is bad. Sex is bad. And it's so odd that preoccupation with sex that they seem to have, with controlling the bodies of little kids. Like these kids are like 13, 14 years old, and there's these youth pastor dudes that are singing about how like, oh, you guys should wait, preserve your innocent bodies. It's super, super creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy.
Yeah.
And never in the history of the world has telling kids not to have sex or making a catchy song about not having sex ever made any kid not want to have sex.
No, because, when they're teenage years, they're really obedient.
Yeah. I'm sure that there's been a lot of virginity lost with purity rings on.
Oh, in the church, in the empty Sunday school rooms in the church.
Yeah. I mean, like,
but yeah, that
they used to have lock-ins. Were you ever in a lock-in?
Yeah, I remember those. We played Murder in the Dark.
Yeah, you'd play, and sometimes after everyone was asleep, people would play as well.
Right.
So, I mean, there was stuff going on.
Right. Because kids are gross. Like post-pubescent kids are gross. That's what they do. I mean, and it's just, to me, it's like, the focus on control. That's a big thing in the church, is controlling other people, controlling what people think, controlling what people do with their bodies. So they try and get them young. And that's like it's a really good thing to try to control when kids are 13, because it's the thing that they want the most. It's the thing that they think about the most. So if you can really get them when they're that young, and you can manipulate them into not doing the thing that they want to do the most, that's the most natural at the point in their lives, I mean, you've got them. That's like the first step in brainwashing and indoctrination.
Oh yeah. I'm remembering a time when I was younger and in church, and the youth group put on a skit, and one of the women in the youth group, the skit was like what coming to God is like, and so this girl dressed up really, really smutty, and like she walked into the church just in like a short skirt and like a really short top and stuff like that. And she like walks up to the altar and she prays, and then they put white robes on her and covered her body. And I don't think any of the teenage boys remembered after they put the robes on. It was... Oh.
Dude, we did all those skits were so awful, man. You could do a whole show on just like Christian skits. There was a group that was really popular. I'm blanking on their name. I think it was called Isaac Air Freight. Do you remember them?
Isaac Air Freight. I don't. The name's not popping up for me.
They were Christian like skit guys. They were known for. They had some comedy CDs, but they were skits that were really common for kids in the youth group to put on for the congregation during the church service. Those are cringy, man. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, okay. I Googled it, and now I'm remembering some of this stuff. Yeah. Jerusalem Dragnet.
I did one. Yeah, I did one called Bible Junkie when I was like, maybe I was 13. And it's this skit where this guy goes up and he says he goes up, and he acts kind of nervous, and he says, well, my name's Richard, and I have a confession to make. I am a junkie, a Bible junkie. And then, and then he goes on to talk about, it's awful. It's so cringy. Like, cringe does not even begin to describe, like, and for me it's more cringy because I actually did that twice. I did it twice in front of a room full of people that thought that was cute, and
Oh man, the only like I didn't take part in very many skits actually when I was growing up. I think our youth was just too small at the time, but as a youth minister, I wrote a Christmas skit once. And the funniest thing that I wrote, because I thought it was funny and I think it still works, even if you're not religious, was the three wise men when they give the gifts to Jesus. The one's like, here is frankincense, here is myrrh, and the third one was like, here is gold, and then the other two were like, we had a $5 limit.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. That's kind of clever.
Yeah.
So you actually were a youth minister, is that right?
I was a youth, and then I was an actual pastor, as well. So yeah, I did youth ministries, and it's all cringy. Everything that you try to do with youth is cringy.
Well, yeah, because so. It's always focused around the narrative, the Jesus narrative. I mean, and so anytime you take some topic, especially a topic as ridiculous as Jesus, and you build this whole thing around it, everything's going to be ridiculous because everybody knows what you're doing and everything always circles back to Jesus. You can never have fun. You can never do anything without it being like ending up at, and Jesus. And we're going to pray and talk about Jesus. It's like, man, we're kids, you know, this isn't fair. We just want to have fun. We just want to have sex.
The most awkward is when you're a youth pastor and your class is, or your group is in that puberty range and the hormones are going on and you can tell that they're not listening to you. They're looking at each other and going, I wish he'd shut up so we can go out back. The old parsonage we can unlock it. We know how.
Did you ever do like youth camp? Did you ever go to Christian summer camp?
I went one time as a kid and I hated it. Oh, I hated it.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. I spent every summer at those places when I was a kid. That was what it was. It was only normally 2 or 3 weeks, so it wasn't the whole summer, but I hated it. I absolutely hated it. There's a video on my channel about Sky Ranch Camp, which is in a Texas Christian camp, and I had this. It's not funny, but I had this counselor. It wasn't a counselor. He was like the youth. I guess he was a counselor. He was the dude that like watches over the cabin. So when you go to these youth camps, obviously they segregate the boys from the girls. They would do that at any kind of camp. And so the boys are on one side of the camp and the girls are all the way on the other side. And they put you in a cabin with a bunch of other boys and like 2 camp counselors to watch over all these little boys. So what could possibly go wrong in a scenario like that, right? I mean, you've got youth counselors that are 18, 19. They're dudes, they're grown men. There's really no vetting process in the hiring as far as I know, other than, are you a Christian? Yes, I am a Christian. Okay, you're hired, you know? So these dudes, a lot of these dudes were pretty creepy. And I get into this in depth in that video on my channel, but I basically had this one guy and he was very fond of showing us his butthole.
What the hell?
Yeah, for real. And he would do it like every day. He would come out of the shower and show us his butthole, and he'd expose himself to us. I don't know if he ever was. I don't know if he did anything else. This was a long time ago, but actually, I think it's the second video that I put up on my channel, and I was telling my friend this story because he was asking me, you know, what my next video was going to be, and I said, I think I'm going to talk about this not pastor, he's just a counselor, this camp counselor that was always showing us his butthole. And my friend was like, what?
Yeah.
I said, yeah, you know, but he thought the way that I was telling the story was not appropriate. He was like, dude, that's not cool at all. Like that's literally sexual abuse, you know? That dude was sexually abusing little boys. Yeah. And I never thought about it. I never thought about it like that because I just thought I was 12 or 13 and I just thought it was weird, but I never looked at it like, because it didn't traumatize me. never thought about it like that. But I looked up the definition of child sexual abuse, and it's true. It actually is legally considered sexual abuse, exposing yourself to little kids.
Yeah.
So
this took a dark turn.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No.
It really did. It was like, you know, you're telling this story, and then he's showing his butthole. Whoa.
Yeah.
That was like the ending to what is the name of that movie?
Oh,
From Dusk Till Dawn.
Oh no, what's the I was thinking that's like the ending of Sleepaway Camp. Do you know the movie I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That was a horror movie.
Yeah, and right at the end you find out that the girl is actually a boy and she's murdering everyone.
I don't think I've seen it.
Oh,
I might have seen it. I don't know if I've seen it or not.
It's a shocking ending. And it's like a 20-year-old movie, so if I've spoiled that for anyone, I'm not sorry. But but yeah, showing good.
Sorry, not sorry.
Good old camp counselor Dave and his sphincter.
Right.
Oh, that's just.
And I've never told my parents that. I never told my mom. I just blew it off. You know, no pun intended. Jesus, I just you know, that was the wrong choice of words. But yeah, I was lucky, you know, being a kid growing up in the Christian church, because I never experienced anything sexually as beyond that. That was the worst thing that happened to me in that area. That my message in that video was that even though this weird sexual thing had taken place multiple times, that wasn't what was traumatizing to me about the camp. What was traumatizing to me was just the constant reinforcement of the Christian indoctrination all the time. It's just, you spend 2 weeks with people that are obsessed with talking to you about Jesus and talking to you about abstinence and talking to you about, you know, even like politically being conservative. And it's a lot to deal with for 2 weeks for a kid to just be bombarded by it. You know, that to me, that was worse than seeing that dude's butthole.
Oh yeah, and it's like for people who have never been to a religious camp, imagine a summer camp where you do the summer camp stuff, but you also go to church 2 to 3 times a day.
Yeah.
That would be a social nightmare for me. I would be like Wednesday at that kind of camp.
I think about that sometimes. That's a good comparison. So how would Wednesday have felt at a Christian camp, though? Like, Christian camp is so dark. Maybe she would have liked it, though, because it's so dark. It's such a dark place.
It's so odd. I've still got the butthole on my mind.
Dark place. And that works on 2 levels.
Now, children, allow me to relate to you the story of the cross through the interpretation of my butthole.
But like, I mean, it really does make you think, though. You know, who are these people that are teaching kids? I mean, like, when you go to a public school, those teachers, and I used to work at a public school. I used to teach, and it's not easy to get into a public school. It's not easy to get into a position of authority over children. You know, there's a vetting process. They make sure that you don't have a criminal record. They drug test you. They do pretty comprehensive background checks on teachers. But I mean, the churches will basically, when I was a kid, I don't know how it is now, but the churches would basically just hire anybody to work with little kids, you know. And in a camp scenario, those kids are basically confined to a room with 1 or 2 older people that you probably don't know, and you don't know anything about, and you have no idea what kind of vetting process, or if there was any kind of vetting process.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they checked their buttholes, but I don't know.
Yes, definitely thorough with the butthole inspection.
Oh damn!
man.
I think that's all. That's what I'm taking away from this. Is there was a butthole. I was gonna say, speak. Go ahead.
Go watch my video. I made a video about it. I sent the video to Sky Ranch Camp. I sent them a link to it, and they actually it took them a couple of days, but they responded to me with a very carefully worded email, and it said that they're sorry if that did happen. They were sorry that that happened. That's not how counselors should behave. That's not what they teach people. Obviously, but that they're not going to pursue it further because it happened so long ago, and I didn't remember the guy's name or what he looked like. I didn't want to pursue anything. I just wanted them to be aware that it had happened.
Could you pick out his butthole in a lineup? I'm sorry. It's not even a funny story.
No, it's not funny at all. But it is. I didn't even realize how dark it was until I was telling it to my friend, and he said, "Dude, that's so fucked up. That's so fucked up."
Oh man.
But
well,
yeah.
I was gonna say, I don't know. One of the Christian singers that I remember the most during the 90s was Ray Boltz. You know Ray Boltz?
I don't remember Ray Boltz.
He sang the song.
Did Ray Boltz have a mullet?
Yes, and he sang the song "Thank You for Giving to the Lord."
Thank you.
Thank you for giving to the Lord.
Okay, so he was.
I remember.
He was like the premier like Christian music artist for a while. He was and he was huge, and then I think it was in 2008 he came out of the closet as gay.
Of course he did.
Oh, I remember him. I do remember that guy.
Yeah. And our church, the church that I attended at the time, held a Ray Boltz music burn.
Oh my god. What the hell? Why? Why do you care so much?
Because he turned his heart against God by going gay.
By being the way that quote unquote God made him.
Yeah.
Oh, what the fuck? Do y'all remember?
Imagine. I'm sorry.
It's okay. Go ahead.
No, you can keep going. I don't want to. You guys are the hosts. I don't want to interrupt you.
I was just gonna ask if y'all remembered Keith Green.
Yeah, I remember Keith Green.
I actually still hold the opinion that Keith Green had a lot of talent, and I mean, even though he was singing about the Lord, it's a shame that he died so young.
He died the year I was born. Actually, he's an older dude. I mean, he's an older artist in that whole thing. He was around when it was more like the music was a lot tamer then, right? I mean, like 19. Yeah, he was. I'm looking at his Wikipedia. He died like a week before I was born. The anniversary of his death is in 3 days. He died July 28th, 1982, right before I was born.
So crazy. I was born that year.
You're 1 year older than me.
I am?
Yeah.
I guess we both are.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep, I'm old. I feel old. Sometimes I feel old, but sometimes I feel really old.
It's weird, but for a few days, me and Matt are the same age, but not for long.
What?
But you're never really the same age.
No. Oops, I just made a mistake.
You did?
Yeah, I just went to, I clicked on the wrong thing and messed up the chat, so I've got to fix it. In the,
Do we have, is there a group chat going on right now? I don't see a group chat.
We have a live chat. I'll put the link over here.
I don't see it.
I'm
afraid to even. I'm afraid to touch it because my VPN is so shaky. I feel like I'm having good luck with the connection, so I may as well just, I don't want to. Are there people watching? How many people are watching right now?
I'm not sure how many people are
There's at least 5.
All right.
High five.
I feel famous right now. I've gotten like 3 subs on my channel.
Awesome.
So this is working out well.
Yeah, I've been sharing your channel in the chat every now and then.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say about you were talking about this guy coming out and the the church's reaction to it. It's interesting that that particular moral issue with Christians is really interesting to me because it really doesn't affect them at all. It has no impact whatsoever on any of their lives at all. The worst thing that might happen is they go out and they see 2 dudes making out or something, but I mean, that's not really that bad, right? And I remember in the 90s, I think it was the late 90s when Ellen DeGeneres came out on her show. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I remember it too.
So we had a special, my youth group had a special meeting that night where they brought us all together and just talked for like 2 hours. They brought us together during the show so we couldn't watch it. Like they isolated us from watching her. Like everybody knew she was gay already. She, like people knew for years and years that she was gay, just like Rosie O'Donnell. No, I don't think anyone ever thought that those women were straight, right? But it was just coming on TV and saying, I am gay. It was this really big deal. So we were taken to this dude's house and we had this youth discussion about how terrible it was. And, it's just one more, I don't think of a simile, one more hammer in the nail in the coffin of the United States. Like they called her Ellen DeGenerate.
Ellen, that takes
Ellen
a lot
DeGenerate.
Of talent.
That's so clever.
And this is where we're going as a nation, and anything that is progressive, anything that actually does good, anything that's good for people is bad for Christians. Anything that advances, anything that advances humanity or advances like compassion for people and understanding for people is bad to the church. Doesn't like it.
Yeah.
So you can always. I'm sorry. It's okay.
I was just going to say, I think that Jesus, if he were a real person and these were his actual morals, I think Jesus would be a socialist.
Probably.
Yeah, I mean, based on some of the stuff that he said, sure. He was the guy that walked around barefoot with no possessions, that had, he basically had his own little cult. He had people following him around, his 12 disciples, and he went around preaching about, not necessarily always about love, but that was, I think, what people got from his message. And that's generally what people say that Jesus was about, was love and compassion. And he definitely would.
He legit said that, in order to get into heaven, if you're a rich man, you should sell everything you have and give it to the poor.
Yeah, but most Christians would say that wasn't to be taken literally because they like to keep their stuff.
That's funny how they
even the early church did live in a communal lifestyle where basically everything was shared, and there's even a story where a couple of people hide some of their goods from the church, and so Peter has them, the power of God, kill them
for hiding stuff. Jesus got really angry about them selling stuff in the temple too. There was I mean, really, if you look at Christianity as just another theology in a long line of religions and theologies, it takes a lot from other religions. Every religion is built on the foundations of the religions that came before it. And there's always been, in religion and spirituality in its purest form, it's always been about trying to ascend beyond the the crutches of the physical and ascend to something that's greater than what is physical. And some religions like Hinduism and Buddhism, early Hinduism and Buddhism, they took this very seriously. It was about ridding yourself of material possessions and ridding yourself of the chains that bound you to physicality in order to transcend to something that was greater than what is our bodies in the world and material things. And there's a kind of purity to that I can appreciate. Or like early Vedic texts and like the Mahabharata, like the early Eastern religions, I think they're much more, not now, but in their original form, they were much more reasonable than the religions that we have now, because the religions that we have now in the West they've basically been distorted to fit political narratives and to control people within a society. So there's not that purity anymore with religion. But what Jesus was saying is the same thing that religion has been saying for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, yeah. He it wasn't really anything new at all. Just
right.
I mean, at most you could say that Jesus, the character of Jesus, put together some of the better ideas that were already going around, like the golden rule, and providing for your neighbors and things along those lines, and put them into the Jewish faith, and then Christianity, but it wasn't anything new.
Right. Because there is nothing new. I mean, when you're looking at it, spirituality or religion and those kinds of, there's nothing new. I mean, everything really came from animism. I mean, animism was, the old way back in the day. Like if you study voodoo is an animistic religion. It's very complex theology, but really all of the religions go back to sun worship and go back to nature worship. And like I think the purest form of theism is pantheism, because at least with pantheism you can sort of just redefine nature as having those elements of God. Pantheism is just basically calling the universe God, and I'm down with that. I think that's reasonable if we're going to talk about God and we're going to have, if I use the word God, normally I'm talking about, the universe, because that makes sense to me that if there was a God, one, it wouldn't be a creator God, and two, it would encompass life, everything, because in the Bible, we were created in the image of God, but it goes both ways. God was created in our image. We were created in the image of God, and we created God in order to compensate for the things that we were not, but also to identify with the things that we were.
Yeah. Yeah, the God concept almost always configures to the culture and the times of what people are in, what you'll accept. I recently made that claim to a Christian apologist who was claiming that all atheists are moral relativists, which most are. But at the same time, all Christians are moral relativists, because people are not following the Christianity that was followed 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago. It's gone through many different changes over the years. And just about every Christian church, no matter how fundamentalist you would think of it as now, is fairly liberal compared to the early Christian churches.
Sure, because they have to be.
Yeah.
So they have social pressure to at least conform to the basic norms of society.
Oh yeah. Russ has said that we can go ahead and end this. I guess he had something that came up that he had to take care of. So I'm going to go ahead and end it, but I'll let you, if there's anything else that you'd like to say before we go, and then I'll end the stream from my end. He'll have to do it on his end as well, but...
Oh, okay. Yeah, I guess, I talked a little bit earlier about the reason I started my channel, but I want to reiterate this point that there are a lot of people that are on YouTube and Twitter that spend their time debating with theists or trying to I guess whatever bridge this gap between non-believers and believers. And I think that there's a place for that. I think that there are people that do that that I respect. And it's a good thing. I don't have a problem with that, but I also think that there are people that need to be a little bit more abrasive. I think it's good to have to I think it's positive to point and laugh at people. Like, I think that ridicule is a form of is a valid form of criticism, and I think there should be less of kind of an apologetic. I feel like the atheist community these days, it seems very sort of apologist leaning, not like Christian apologist, but very apologist for, we should respect other people's beliefs, and we should try and sort of have this commonality so we can have these discussions. And look, I'm 30, I'll be 36 in a week, and I've been having these discussions my whole life. I've been a non-believer my whole life. I never believed, but I said the words when I was 14. And I spent my 20s. I would argue with anybody that would, debate with me or argue with me about religion. I was very passionate about it. And now that I'm older, I think I've come to this realization that it really, if you're interested in making a change in the world and you're interested in seeing progress in terms of the way people look at themselves and the world around them, and especially God and religion and how God relates to their own lives, I think it's important to get the young people. I think it's important to get them on board. And we do this through education. We make sure that education in the States or anywhere is secular. I mean, not secular, but real. It's objective education. They learn what's real. We keep religion out of schools. We keep religion out of government. And in terms of what people like you and I do, I think it's important to show young people how stupid that their parents are, and to show them how and I'm being serious.
No, I agree.
It's not like a like a trolling thing, but for real, like, kids need to see the awful consequences of the mistakes that their parents made. I look at the political situation in the US, and I'm on the other side of the world. I'm in Shanghai, China. I look at the political situation in the US, and that was a direct result of conservative Christianity. I mean, maybe Donald Trump's not a Christian, maybe Bush wasn't a Christian, or whatever, the people that came before, maybe they just say that in order to appease their base. But the fact that they need to say that and in order to appease their base, that's indicative of a problem, of a very serious problem that we have in our society, where people are making political decisions. Voters are voting based on values that they derived from 1,000-year-old books written by desert people who ate their children. I mean, for real, mythology and religion is being used on a daily basis in the United States, which is supposed to be a progressive place, which is supposed to be the most modern country in the world. People are using these hideous, monstrous, disgusting this theology to in their everyday lives for making decisions for the kids, what they do with their kids, how they vote, the things that they stand for, the things that they stand against. And you're not going to change that. I mean, with the older generations of people, there might be one or two people who listen to reason and realize that maybe they shouldn't believe what they believe, or they should at least look at it in a different way and question why they believe. But I really do believe that the potential for good, positive growth and progression in the United States, at least, is with the kids. And you know how Christians say the atheists are coming for your kids. You've heard that, right?
Yeah.
The atheists are coming for your kids. Well, guess what? We are coming for your kids, because your kids are the future of the world, and we don't want to see the world go to total shit because people are still making the same mistakes that they've been making for however long I don't know, how long have people been making these mistakes, you know? And our country is just getting worse and worse and worse. And I mean, my country, even though I haven't been there, I think from what I've seen following the political situation, the country is at a great divide right now, and religion is not the only reason that that divide exists, but it is definitely a contributing factor, and it's contributed nothing but death and disease and chaos, and it needs to die and be replaced by science and logic and reason.
I completely agree with you there. Recently, I had a video on my channel. A lot of people think that it was a declaration of war on atheists, and it was not a declaration of war on atheists. It was basically just me saying that I'm not going to play nice with theists. I don't think that, in my opinion, that's not the direction that I should go. I don't think that like you said, there seems to be a lot of apologist tactics kind of going on with various atheist channels and atheism as a whole out there, and that's not the direction I'm going. I think that satire and mockery are amazing tools when it comes to progressing as a society. In any case where we have progressed as humans, whether that be civil rights, gay rights, anything along those lines, mockery has been used of the bad ideas. And so, you know, through political cartoons, through comedians, through vaudeville at that time, radio, television, mockery. And so I think that's a great tool. Now, I can still be friends with someone who's religious. That doesn't say I can't be friends with them. But because I can respect a person, but I don't respect the ideas that that person supports. And so I'm with you 100% on that. So, you know, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I'd like to have you on my channel sometime. And
yeah, happy to come on.
And I'm sure frustrated. He's had some kind of tech issue or something along those lines that he had to drop off. But
he disappeared.
Yeah, but everybody, thank you for watching. I guess I shouldn't use my tagline, so I'll just stay frustrated. I think that's what the tagline is that I'm supposed to use. So, all right, everybody.
We're supposed to.
What?
I was gonna say we're supposed to be trying to find tactics to keep us from being frustrated.
Yeah. So find ways to not be frustrated. Anyway, all right.
That's not as catchy though.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Okay, bye-bye.